The most dangerous phrase in the language is, "We've always done it this way." This was a quote by Grace Hopper, a woman pioneer in computer science. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Human Pulse podcast, where we talk about living well with technology. I'm Fabrice Neuman, a tech consultant for small businesses.
And I'm Anne Trager, a human potential and performance coach.
This is episode 32, recorded on March 1st, 2026.
Human Pulse is usually never longer than 30 minutes, so let's get started. And I'm going to start. I just want to jump in and say, I love the quote you started with. And now it makes me think about Grace Hopper. And it was always bringing to mind the fact that we should think about how we do things. And she used to keep a clock that ran counterclockwise on her desk. So I thought about that when I heard that quote. And I thought about how now I want to have a counterclockwise clock on my desk. And it reminds me of a story about a family that always used to cut a chunk out of their Thanksgiving turkey before roasting it because that's what they did. And then some, quote, annoying, perhaps I should just say curious, early teen asked why. In a big family gathering. So you can imagine, like, everybody's fixing the turkey the way they've always done it. And you have this, annoying, curious young person saying, but why do we do it this way? Why? It doesn't make sense. Why? I mean, really. And as it turns out, after going around to all the different members of the family, it was the, great grandmother or something who said, oh yeah, it's because we had a really small oven back in the day. So anyway, I guess what you wanted to talk about today was something about challenging our assumptions and our ways of doing things.
Exactly, because so something happened to me and I need to tell you all about it. So let's start. A couple of weeks ago, I had to go for a 2-day trip with just one night layover, right? And that night, but just before going to bed, something happened, which was that I didn't have to charge any of my devices. And it was liberating. I mean, yeah, so, we go on vacation and we make sure we have all the chargers and all the different, wires and different types of wires because, they change all the time. But so it was liberating. And it's one of the most interesting results of changes in my tech usage I started to implement at the beginning of this year. And I found a way to I call that the great revisiting. Basically, I started to question the use of the devices I use every day to determine whether they are bringing me something that was either useful, joyful, anything, just to know, because to avoid this, I've always done it like this. So is it useful? And that led me to keep the iPhone, I would say, obviously, but I put my iPad on the shelf. And also, I'm not wearing my Apple Watch anymore, which I was a great fan of. And I also got back to using wired earbuds.
Really? You using wired earbuds? I know. I noticed that the other day and I thought like something had gone wrong. It was like this little glitch. I was looking around and I saw you with wired earbuds and there was a little glitch in my in my thing. Because I remember pushing back on getting Bluetooth earbuds at some time. I was really feeling like I needed to convince you of it. And, I had all of my arguments and, I had some about, Bluetooth around my brain and others about, well, but they always fall out of my ears. And I mean, I had so many arguments just because I didn't want to go there. Well, because of the charging and because there are two of them usually, and I can just imagine me losing them, one of them, every other day. Anyway, then of course, I did discover something which are called the air shocks, these wonderful, beautiful bone conduction hearing devices. I don't know what you call them.
Well,
anyway, whatever. And I love them. And yes, they are Bluetooth. So anyway, that was the end of my struggle to stay away from Bluetooth.
Yeah. So, we can go further on those. So some will remember the time when at some point Apple decided to remove the audio jack on their phones and then starting pushing the AirPods, so as we are now calling them true wireless earbuds, because as you said, as you described, they're like two small devices, one for each ear, that they are not linked with any wires, right? So they're really wireless. And some people are losing them for sure. I never lost an AirPod, so okay, maybe I'm just lucky in that
I
department.
don't know. I
And
put anything in my ear and it just falls right out.
So I do remember using the same, at least in my head, the same word, which was liberating, because so I was using wired earbuds before and the wire would get tangled or blocked into some kind of, the doorknobs or whatever. So it was annoying. But then, so I got a pair of AirPods and they died because that's what they do after a couple of years. The battery that's very small in it, and the AirPods they don't hold a charge very very well, up to the fact that they would only work for like 10 minutes. It was obviously not usable. So I changed for another pair, but then you start questioning yourself about, okay, but these are absolutely not repairable. And you have to change them. You cannot change the battery in them. And they're expensive and stuff like that. And one of the things is that also the microphone quality is pretty bad. And something happened. So since I was revisiting my use, so I took my earbuds, my wired earbuds, out of the storage. And the first two times I did that and used them for a phone call, two different people said the same thing to me before starting the conversation, saying, "Wow, I can hear you very well." Basically asking what's happening. And what's happening was I was using these wired earbuds that are like $30, and the microphone on them is very good. It's incredibly good compared to a $300 pair of AirPods.
Yeah.
And wow. And that made, so that made me rethink about, okay, sometimes the wires are annoying. They're not as good for, exercising. It's true that having wireless earbuds, whatever the type of earbuds you use, exercising, running, whatever you do, not having a wire is more comfortable. But there was one less thing to charge, and the quality is very good. They're very cheap.
Yeah,
I know
there are
how I
so
sound.
many advantages. Many advantages.
I know. So it's like, going back in time, but still.
Okay. And I also think there's a lot more to unpack with your great revisiting, because it's not only the earbuds.
Yeah. So not that I want to drown you into too many details, but okay, let me explain just a bit. So I guess you agree there's no surprise about the smartphone, so whichever one you use, whether it's an iPhone or not, so it's still, I think, the center of our digital life, or even of our life, basically, for almost everyone. Even if I still use a computer more than I use a smartphone on a day-to-day basis, but still, obviously, smartphone is at the center.
I don't know. That might be a sign of your age or something like that. I don't
No
know.
question.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
No
and
question.
I'm the same. I use my computer more than my smartphone. There are things that I just won't even do on my smartphone. I just bump it over
absolutely.
to the
But
computer.
this is also, I would say, when you have a job, basically you're in front of your computer. Basically, if you have a what you call it, you're not in a assembly line, but you're in front of a computer. So basically, you still use a computer all day long. But okay, the smartphone does so many things. We don't have to list them here. But then there's the case of the iPad. After, so I start to feel very frustrated by, how often I had to recharge it. Even though it's a pretty recent iPad, it's an iPad Air with an M2 chip. It's pretty recent. And still, this is one of the devices in the Apple ecosystem that hasn't changed a lot in that department. They still advertise it for a 10-hour day, 10-hour use or 10-hour battery life, which is pretty actually short compared to the new Macs that were released 5-6 years ago, where you can go 20 hours without recharging them. And so that was my first frustration, which was I thought I had to charge it so many times and so often. And plus this year I want to use the stylus more because I want to start writing longhand a bit more for other reasons we can discuss probably in another podcast. But as you know, I don't like paper on our whole. So for me, writing was not on paper. It was writing with the stylus on the screen. And I discovered that I really don't like the iPad for that particular purpose either.
Yeah. I never managed to use an iPad for writing. I tried all of the covers and the pen tips and whatever, the stylus tips, sorry. And I don't know, I just gave it up.
Yeah, you tried that too, and you didn't like it. And so I tried, the paper-like screen protector, as you said, and the tips. And so that didn't work. And so I started to use the Kindle Scribe again. So the Kindle Scribe is the big version of a Kindle e-reader, which has a stylus. So, but it has an e-ink screen. So yes, it is black and white. I don't have the color version yet. I'm not sure I actually want it, but but the main thing as well is that, so I read on it. I read Kindle books, and we've been in the Kindle ecosystem for quite a while. But it also has a stylus, and the feel of writing on it is excellent, actually. And you can actually also change the tips on the Kindle Scribe stylus. And I changed it for a felt tip, and it's really nice to write with it on the.
I might have to try this
on the Kindle Scribe. Plus, the stylus doesn't need to be recharged at all because to add insult to injury, the iPad has to be recharged, but the Apple Pencil has to be recharged as well.
Yeah, true. I remember that too. Yeah.
It's annoying. The stylus on the Kindle Scribe doesn't have to be charged at all. And the device itself, the battery life, you don't count it in days, you count it in weeks.
Wow. Okay.
And when you only have 20% left on your battery, it's okay for a week.
Nice.
And so, wow, that really changes a lot.
Well, and then of course you can't do anything else. I mean, you can read a book or you could write whatever you're writing, but like you're not going to be doing your email or watching YouTube videos or checking your social media feed. I mean, if you still do that. Yeah. So I love the simplicity of it. Yeah.
That's very true. And this is something that we've been discussing here for many times, having, more centered, more focused use of devices, and that helps. Plus, it adds a lot of benefits and advantages as far as I'm concerned. So that was it. So that was that. So in my story of my 2-day trip, obviously I had my Kindle reader with me, and so I don't even think of bringing a charger if I leave for 2 days or even a week for that device. Then so I talked about the Apple Watch, right? And so that was the main surprise for me because I used to love it. I do remember that once the one that I had broke, and for a few days I didn't have a replacement. And I was really missing it, like feeling it on my wrist, even though I was not wearing it. As you can sometimes, with the ring or something, you have this ghost feeling of having something, right? And then something happened. So I started to get a longer battery life on the Apple Watch because it also has to be charged every day. And that's somewhat annoying. So you can convince yourself, which is what I did for several years. That's okay. I charge my phone every night, so I can charge my watch every night, and that's fine. But then it used to be very useful for me to have the watch to push myself into moving more, because that's what it does. The Apple Watch wants you to close the rings, your activity rings every day, and so it's kind of a nice push to move more and do more exercise. But then I realized after quite a while that actually I didn't need the push with the activity ring. So I started to not to use it. I mean, I deactivated the exercising data collection, if you will,
Right, right.
which was very good for battery life. Actually, if you do that, you deactivate, you disable everything that's fitness related on the Apple Watch,
Right,
and then
right.
all of a sudden the watch can last 3 or 4 days.
Yeah. Huh.
How
It's
you
so
know?
interesting what you're saying. Yes, about the battery life and about how you liked it for the fitness reminder thing for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then you didn't need it anymore.
Yep.
And I think that that's one thing about all of these tracking devices and these, helping you along devices is that is useful for a while. And then if you actually build the habit of your exercise, you don't need it anymore.
For exercising, yes. I think there's still something to be said about data collection in the long run,
Yeah.
where you have a year, 2 years, 10 years of data, and then it can start being it can detect whether there's a change in patterns
Mm,
for you.
yeah.
So all of a sudden, your heart rate is getting higher when it was not before, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
it,
this is true. This is true. And I agree with you there. And if we get back to the charging kind of thing, and for those devices you still need to charge them. And I know I stopped wearing my Aura ring when it came sort of to the nearing the end of its battery life after
yeah.
how God knows how many years, because I couldn't make it through 24 hours. So I'd have to charge it all the time. And so I'd wake up in the morning to look at my data, my sleep data, and it would say I didn't sleep at all because, I mean, there was no data because it ran
Because
out
the
of
ring was
battery.
dead, not you.
It ran out of battery in the middle of the night. So it was so frustrating. So it's now it just sits on a charger on my desk, but I never put it on again,
No. But so that's the thing. So all of a sudden, the Apple Watch for me was a very useful fitness tracker when I needed a little push
Mm.
for me to move, and then at some point it was not anymore. And then the data collection all the time. Maybe the Apple Watch is actually not the best device to do that.
Mm. Mm.
And
Yeah.
I used to, so I like the fact that I had the cellular Apple Watch. So it meant that I could like leave the house for a couple of hours for an errand or something without taking my phone, with still being connected to receive calls or messages. But so I didn't have to take my phone. But so I was happy for a while, and then okay, but still, so it's still two devices to charge. And as far as the cellular Apple Watch is concerned, it's a cellular plan in addition
Yeah.
that you have
Yeah.
to pay
Yeah.
for. So here in France, it's €5 a month. Okay. And still you need to manage things. And I used to, so for example, you go for an errand or you go for a jog and you can have your podcasts or your music on the watch. And so you have this wonderful wireless life where you have what you listen to on your watch, and you can listen to that with your wireless earbuds. Okay, wonderful. You don't have a wire, and it's lighter. But boy, oh boy, do you have to manage devices to do that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of cognitive
Right?
load going on there.
Exactly.
And so it sounds like when you when you reduced it to, so let's just go back to your story.
Yes.
On your day and a half trip, you had just your phone.
Yep.
And your Kindle.
Yep.
And no chargers. Okay, well, so how did you keep your phone alive?
So that's a good point. It's a particular case because during those 2 days I drove, right? So the phone was charged and charging in the car during the trip, so I had a several hour drive both ways. So of course that's a particular case because at the end of the day, the phone was almost fully charged. Maybe it was like 80%, whatever. I knew that the next day I would be in the car anyway. So I just put the phone in plane mode. So on top of that, smartphones, iPhones in particular, but I think other phones can do that now, which is you put your phone in plane mode at 80% at night. And the next morning you're at 79.
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so it doesn't lose charge when it's not connected to anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I just took my phone and I got around my day, and I left after the morning with a friend at 70%, and I was in the car, and it was fine, right?
So it sounds like that brought you a lot of feeling of relief and freedom. I mean, like that's the way you speak about
Yes,
it. It was like
yes.
this great liberation. After the great revisiting comes the great liberation, right?
Yes,
So,
exactly.
and I can just imagine. I mean, when we travel together, if we travel together, and you did not have to think about me charging my devices, because yes. I have already had that great liberation, but I did it slightly differently. I just delegated to you to be the charger control person, right? So that I didn't have to think about it. And I know that's kind of cheating and it's not very fair. And not everybody has a Fabrice to delegate to, okay? So,
Yeah, but then are you afraid now that if I don't charge
yeah,
my devices that much,
that I might have
what?
to take on some of this
Yep,
cognitive load myself. Oh
indeed.
my goodness. Or just I'll forget about it. And since I don't ever look at my phone anyway, and I don't, like, you know.
No, but this thing. So, for example, you are using an iPad Mini.
Yes.
How do you feel about the charging situation for that
Well, so
particular
I have a
device?
very particular use of the iPad Mini, is that I only ever use it to read through the Kindle app
Hmm.
in the evenings before I go to sleep. I put it on the dark mode with, the letters backlit or whatever you call it. I don't know exactly what you
It's
call it.
white on black.
Yeah, white
It's
on
reverse
black.
mode.
And then I put my red light glasses on, and then I read before I go to bed on that. So it is never connected to the Wi-Fi, except when I upload a new book. And I have a little charger right next to the bed. So I don't really know how long it lasts, because whenever it flashes up, battery low, well, I have a little charger and I just plug it in. But it stays right there. It doesn't move. I mean, it's a
Mhm.
total. It's
It's
a
an
very
e-reader for you.
weird, very small usage of such a, a versatile device.
Yes.
Okay. So that's that experience.
So and so we'll put a link in the show notes about the e-readers and stuff like that. So I always like the e-ink screens, just to say a few words about that, because on top of that, if you use a whichever device you will use for reading, and let me stress again the fact that so I don't use paper. I don't like paper for reading, as some people know, but the e-reader, the e-ink screens on e-readers are very good when you're outside and it's a very bright day.
Mm.
An iPad is not,
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
In addition to that, yeah, all of that put together, yes, I'm freed.
Well, so it sounds like today we've really been talking about, first of all, about habits and about assumptions. Okay?
Yes.
And yes, habits are hard to change, which means it's hard to let go of our tech and the platforms we use and we choose to use. So I can't help but ask, tell us a little bit more about your experience with some of these choices we've made.
Well, and it seems that it's not getting better in that department either, as a general thought. We are, as a family, well embedded into the Apple ecosystem, right? So some people, and me included, you call that a so-called walled garden. So if you're inside the walled garden, it's all great and good. And sometimes it's also annoying because it's hard to change or hard to get out. So as far as the Apple ecosystem is concerned, I don't want to get out of it, maybe yet, I don't know. But I still very much appreciate the fact that everything works together. I have several Macs I use every day. We have an Apple TV, and with the iPhone, you can control the Apple TV with the iPhone and stuff like that. And we share data and stuff like that. It works pretty well. So that's fine. The other ecosystem, and we hinted at that at the beginning of this conversation, is the Amazon ecosystem. We're not that much into it, but still, actually, we are in a way, because we are Amazon Prime subscribers. Basically for delivery, for free delivery for lots of items that we order online. That's very convenient, as we know. But then something happened, and it's more on the political side. I, for one, reacted pretty strongly to the news about Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon. He's not running it day to day anymore, but he's the founder of it, and he's the owner of the Washington Post newspaper. And the newspaper fired a third of its workforce pretty recently, and they didn't even financially help journalists working abroad to come back home. Right? They abandoned them. And I was really, really annoyed by that. And so, as you remember, at some point I asked you and our daughter, so can we get rid of Amazon? Can we get out of Amazon? Because basically this is the only thing you can do, as a message from us, this tiny, very tiny portion of Amazon's revenues. And so we talked about it, and you'll tell us your first reaction, but basically it's hard because, first of all, Amazon services are very good.
Yeah.
Why did we go there in the first place? And this is probably and it is to the detriment of other, companies and stores and what have you. But it's very good. It's more often than not less expensive. The delivery services are incredibly good. In addition, you get Prime Video. We are in the Kindle ecosystem, so that's Amazon too. And this is what we were referring to at the beginning of this conversation. So it would be very hard to get out of it.
Yeah.
And it's annoying in a way.
Yeah. Well, so it's a really big topic that you're bringing up. We, because we do try to keep within a time frame. I don't think we'll go very deep into it, but I think there's more than one topic here. First of all, there's how embedded these services are in our lives. That's one aspect of it. Okay. And there's another one, which is also how sometimes we need a slap in the face. In this case, related to deep principles and values that you hold in order to question and to bring awareness to what we are doing. I mean, why else would you ask us, come home and say, hey, are we sure about what we're doing with Amazon? I mean, maybe we should be asking that question more often, and we don't. And, earlier you said you were questioning your devices and whether they were bringing you something that was either useful or joyful or anything at all. And now you're adding a deeper question, which is, and where do my values stand in this choice? And this is where intentional use, which we've talked about frequently, and you're just adding another layer onto it. Is it bringing joy? And is this aligned with the values that I stand by? It's a complicated question. It's a complicated answer. If there is even an answer to that. Anyway, intentional use can also be uncomfortable use, or it could be no use at all, and maybe it'll change day to day. So thanks for bringing that up.
So that's the thing. So I think questioning what we use just by habit is a good habit to have, to question your habits. And I also know that it's my trait to change, because when I get to something on my computer, it's all well organized. I have all the services that work. And then all of a sudden, but what if I could do something different, right?
Yeah, I know. And then all of the services do not only not work for you, they do not work for me.
That's exactly right. So I have this family responsibility to make sure that everything works. And so for example, I am questioning the use of a particular password manager. And so we have to talk about that. But that will be for
yes,
another
I don't think
time.
we want to do that out loud right here, right now.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I think that's it for episode 32. Thank you all for joining us. Please do visit humanspulsepodcast.com for links and past episodes.
And thank you for subscribing and reviewing wherever you listen to your podcast. It helps other people find us. You can also share it with one person around you.
We'd be most grateful. And see you in more or less 2 weeks.
Bye, everyone.